Amazing. Welcome, everybody. I hope you're having a good Tuesday.
All right, thank you, Tristan. Okay, can you guys see my screen share that says we will be starting soon?
See it online. Yep.
Okay. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and start the presentation. All right, today we're talking about working in mental health field as a peer and also just working in any job while maintaining your mental health. And to start, we last meeting we had the folks from the peer specialist training from Share, and they put on a cool presentation. This is just like a refresher or just a reminder of what they were, what the course entails. Course details: 80 hours of training, attendance at 20 self-help support groups, learn the evidence-based best practices for peer services, learn the 12 tools of the Share Peer Kit, assessment, and preparation for the California Peer Certification Exam, Cal Mesa approved training entity, 1,600 course fee, but scholarships available for those who complete a prerequisite. And then, of course, there's TMHA's supported employment program. Brief overview. TMHA supported employment program, SEP provides ongoing job support services necessary for individuals with mental illness to choose, get, and keep competitive employment while working in jobs and environments they prefer and with the level of professional support they desire. SEP is a growing program serving well over 300 individuals per year and partnering with more than 30 businesses and community agencies throughout San Luis Obispo and northern Santa Barbara counties. I've been through it before a few years back. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a pretty cool program.
Yeah.
I think they provide a lot of good services, and then just it's nice to have someone to talk to.
Yeah.
I think like when you're struggling with employment type of issues.
Yeah, I did that several years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's good to practice like interviewing and stuff like that too.
Yeah,
Found that
it is.
helpful. Yeah.
Can never practice enough.
Yeah. All right. Knowing yourself at work.
Yeah.
You want to take it over?
I'll take it over. Awesome. So we are going to start talking a little bit about just knowing yourself at work. Albert, can you, oh, shoot, let me pull up the PowerPoint so I know exactly where we need to be.
Okay.
I was going to say, is there a slide with this on it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Boom. Okay. So this is dropped in the chat. It is the window of tolerance infographic. And here we're just going to talk a little bit about it. No matter where you work, I have done this as a waitress. I have done this working in human services. I have done this just even maybe going to a social event that I didn't want to go to. But it's self-assessment. One of the key things that we talk about here at TMHA when we onboard staff is that to really know yourself, you have to check in with yourself. And that goes for any type of work environment. Work is stressful, you know, things happen. So we want to make sure that we're checking in with ourselves before we start our shift, just to know where we are and how much resilience we have in the bank. So the window of tolerance, you can see it's in the middle with a little unicorn floaty on it. That window of tolerance, it expands and it shrinks as your day goes on. Sometimes, like you think about it, you have bills due, you have to go to a doctor's appointment, you have 3 meetings at work. Your window of tolerance might shrink at that point because you have so much on your plate that you find yourself getting dysregulation maybe a little bit sooner than you normally do. Maybe you're a little bit more irritable. Maybe you're just a little bit more like on edge or hypervigilant. That is usually, those are some signs that your window of tolerance is shrinking. All right. And then sometimes, hey, man, whatever comes, you're like, that's cool. We'll handle it. We'll take care of it. It's okay. It's another appointment. It's another walk-in. Somebody dropped a whole carton of glasses. That's okay. It happens. We'll figure it out. Maybe then that's when your window is a little bit more expanded and you have a little bit more resiliency. So it's important to check in where you are, because that plays a part in how your workday is going to go. So at the very top, we have hyper arousal. I always want to say hypo. It's hyper arousal. So that is that like increased responsiveness, feeling anxious, irritable. I think of this as like the road rage type of situation that we find ourselves in. And then on the bottom, after we pass that dysregulation, we have the hypoarousal. I think of this as like when after you've eaten a turkey sandwich, right? That tryptamine has settled and now you're kind of tired or you're lethargic and you are not as responsive as normal because you are in that hypo state. Awesome. If we go to this slide, boom. So here we have a couple of different worksheets. We have this one, and so this is also in your chat. These should be fillable for you to fill out online, but here you're just taking a self-assessment, a self-inventory, all right? And so when you're in hyper-arousal, what do you exhibit the most? The exercise here is to check off all the ones that you find yourself exhibiting. So for me, when I get hyper-aroused, I usually have some hypervigilance. I am a little bit shaky. I feel tension. I have some racing thoughts. And so I'm going to mark all of those, and then you're going to put 1 through 5, 1 being the least, and then 5 being the most severe, on how you rate yourself feeling that when you're in hyper arousal. Now, to get to that space, just think of a time when somebody cut you off on the road, or the IRS hung up on you after waiting 30 minutes on hold. I'm sure we can all think of situations in our life where we're like, wow, that set me into a little bit of a rage. And so then what are some of the symptoms that you felt during that time? All right, you're going to do the same practice with the hypoarousal. So this is like after listening to a very long lecture at school or a very long meeting at work and you're just drained. And now you have to go back to work, you have to go serve a table, you have to do anything work related. How did you feel? So in hypoarousal, I tend to, no display of emotions, autopilot responses, memory loss. Sometimes it's really hard for me to remember even simple words because I'm just like, whew, man, what is going on with the brain? It's almost like a brain freeze type of situation. Same practice here. You're going to go through and you're going to mark the ones that you feel when you are in hypoarousal and then rate them 1 through 5. We really put stress on this because these symptoms are what's going to exhibit first before you start kind of cognitively thinking about it. You might notice yourself shaking, or you might notice you having a hard time remembering words and you're like, what is wrong with me? These should be the first indicators that you are leaving that window of tolerance, you're moving away from your personal baseline, and now you're starting to feel that dysregulation. Why it's important to notice this before or as early as possible is that you can then apply your self-control plan that you create, and we're going to do that a little bit later, to really kind of circumvent the top part of the behavior, right? Where you're just feeling overwhelmed and you, I think the Gen Z calls it crash out. So we want to avoid that. So we want to acknowledge our symptoms early and start applying those alternatives, those coping mechanisms, so that we can bring ourselves back within our window of tolerance so that we don't have a full-on panic attack or behavior, or you just kind of go numb. We want to make sure that we're getting it early. All right, we can kind of go back. So once again, it's just getting to know yourself, that window of tolerance. We talk about it. I like to think of it as a river of tolerance, right? Because we are going throughout our day and we're sailing kind of just through the middle of it. I like to think of myself on that unicorn floaty with maybe an ice cold Dr. Pepper in my hand. and thinking about me sailing through my day. And sometimes things just spike it, right? So sometimes we move a little bit more towards the hyperarousal, but hey, I apply my self-control plan. I do some deep breaths. I go for a walk around the block. I drink some cold water to kind of shock my system and kind of regulate myself. And then I'm back in the middle and I'm enjoying that floaty ride. And then I have some lunch or I sit through a long meeting and now I'm in hyperarousal and I'm trying to work with somebody or I'm trying to complete tasks at work. And now I'm just emotionally flat and have a lack of energy and don't respond. So now I need to kind of kick myself up. So what are some things that I can do to wake myself up? Well, I have a standing desk, which I'm very thankful for. So I can put it up on stand so that I'm not just sitting in my chair kind of sleeping. Also, there is a pressure point in between your, what is this, the pointer finger and your thumb, right here in that little kind of area in between there, that little fleshy plate of skin. If you pinch that and hold that, ooh, that doesn't feel nice. But if you pinch it and hold it for a few seconds and then let it go, that does tend to kind of try to perk you up. That is like one of the tips and tricks that I learned in school. Another one is I had a friend, I don't recommend doing this, but because this really hurts, but she would take her two little pinkies, put them together, and then bite down on them. And then she would take her pinkies, interlock them, and then pull. That really kind of hurts. So I didn't like that one. I settled for the pressure point in between the pointer finger and the thumb. But a lot of other people in school did do that one. Yes. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. But I kind of want to take a pause here and just take some inventory of like the people around. But what are some of the coping skills that you guys employ when you start to feel yourself move away from baseline, you're going out of your window of tolerance, and you're in that hyper arousal state where you're a little bit more irritable, a little bit more in your fight or flight responses? What are some things that you guys do?
Whenever I'm stressed out, like in any time, I usually try to drink water and that kind
Mhm.
of calms me down a little
Yeah.
bit. If I could feel it in my body and in my mind, the cool sensation going down my body,
Yeah.
and then if I feel my head getting cooler and just kind of calms me down and relaxes me.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like the water. You feel it kind of go down your esophagus and sit in your stomach. Fun fact, it's very hard. I'm not going to say impossible because there's probably somebody that can do it, but it is very hard to drink water and cry at the same time. So I have panic attacks. And so recently I had one and I was like, it's impossible to cry and drink water at the same time. So I kept just chugging water or like sipping water while I was trying to calm myself down. Um, it kind of worked. There was a time where I almost choked. So maybe I don't recommend that, but it's but yeah, I was able to stop the crying, but also, yeah, I probably could have choked myself. So anybody else have any like just coping skills that they employ when they feel themselves starting to get a little bit more irritable, hyper aroused?
Take deep breaths.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. Yeah, breathing. It's funny because I am currently in a class and it's an intro class, so it's fun. But they asked me to do a comparison on 3 different coping skills for anxiety, and breathing in meditation, specifically mindfulness practices like breathing and meditation really light up different parts of your brain. And it's amazing. They did a study on Buddhist monks who were long-term meditators, and they found that meditation in the long term helped shrink certain areas in your brain, like the amygdala, the prefrontal cortex, and your like your direction center. But shrinking your amygdala really helped people to respond calmer with more thought out responses to anxiety and stress. Shrinking the parental and deactivating the prefrontal cortex also help people with lower their cortisol levels, which is that stress hormone that gets released into your body, and also just like help them kind of just deal with problems head on and not raise their energy. It's really interesting if you can see the video. Maybe I'll find it and I'll link it in the chat. But the video where they do MRI scans on Buddhist monks, and they have them meditate while in the MRI tube, you can see different parts of their brain light up because of meditation. Same thing kind of goes with breathing. Very much like how it just calms the body down, getting that oxygen to your brain. Ooh, just really kind of helps yourself settle. So yeah, breathing is such a wonderful and simple tool that you can apply anywhere. You can do it in the line at the grocery store, you can do it at your car, you can do it at your desk. Just a couple of quick breaths. A little note on breathing though, those that have like an OCD or any type of like obsessive compulsive habits, just being really careful because you can become a little bit on like the pattern breathing exercises such as box breathing or anything like that. So being mindful of that, 3 deep breaths can do just as much as a box breath. So if you find yourself kind of falling into that pattern, maybe shift it to this 3 deep breaths or, anything else.
I
Yeah.
have to watch that too, because I have
Yeah.
OCD.
Yeah.
And that's why I have to be careful with the breathing exercises, because I have a thing with numbers, and like, if I start breathing while I'm counting, I might have to like take some extra breaths to get to a number that makes me more comfortable.
Yeah.
And then I might have like start like hyperventilating if I breathe too many
Yeah.
breaths. And so I try not to count and breathe at the same time. But I can do breathing exercises without counting, and then it helps. But I just have to sort of separate the numbers from the breathing, and that works better for
I
me.
don't have OCD, but when I do breathe and stuff, I don't usually bother counting or anything like that. So it's just getting it out. It's not really so much. Sometimes that can make me or other people nervous, or it's like, okay, am I doing this right? And then you're
Yeah. Yeah.
but then that's more anxiety, and then but for me, when I get into this state, is I try and find somebody that I can talk to about my stress. And if I can't do that, I'll distract myself with different stuff. Let's see, I'm more hypo, I say, than hyper. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. And that's fair. I feel like,
kind of an odd mix.
yeah.
Or it's more like when I get like I'll get racing stuff with feeling overwhelmed, but I also kind of get kind of hypo at the same time. It's kind of odd.
Yeah, I think it just varies from person to person, right? Like I feel like everybody's a unique individual. And I think that's why like coping skills and things like that are so varied, is because it hits different things for different people. So, and even exhibiting symptoms, like if we were to go back to that, can we go back to that fight or flight type of that slide? That fight or flight, like it can exhibit a little bit more, one more, there we go. That fight or flight, it exhibits different in everybody, right? And so it's really important. Like there are some people who would be fighters, but maybe they're a little bit more quiet. And so instead of that like outward, like, what's it, we're gonna go, it's more of a silent like stewing, and they're like stubborn, and that might come across as being quiet. But yeah, it's
I'm a freezers.
yeah, which I would say is a kind of a subset of flight, right? So you freeze, you're like, deer in the headlights. I don't know like which way to go. I would say I'm a flighter. I have a tendency to want to talk myself out of situations, and then kind of knowing that. Stephanie, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes. Yes, I did have my hand raised. When I get into that kind of mode, it's funny, I do go into freeze, almost like a robot mode, you know. It helps me to cut the emotions out. I become like more machine-like, would say. And I feel the front part of my brain just, numbing. And it helps me not to, overreact or have a panic attack. I do have medication for panic attacks, but I use those very rarely. I try to do breathing exercises to calm myself, or just, put my head back a little bit and see if it passes before I resort to, the extreme case of taking a medication for it. But definitely freeze is definitely me. It's not fight, it's not flight, it's freeze.
Yeah, yeah.
To go into that, like
Yeah.
when I'll feel that anxiety, the hyper arousal, I'll do stuff that sometimes healthy, but can also be unhealthy, whereas I'll feel the urge to just stay in bed and sleep, which can be healthy and also be very unhealthy. So,
Yeah. And I think that's important to know. This is all about just getting to know you and how you exhibit when you stress out on things. And it looks different for everybody, but it's important to know, like if I'm a fighter and we're in a situation at work where I'm having conflict with another employee, or I'm having conflict with, a customer, a client, whatever type of work you do, it's important to know that about yourself because it's what you bring to the table, right? So if I'm starting to get dysregulated and I'm a fighter, I know you should do that self-assessment of like, I know that I can start to get a little bit loud. I can start to want to talk over people. I can start to want to use aggressive terms or aggressive tones. And so that I can talk to myself and do that self-talk of, remember, take a deep breath. Remember, speak a little bit slower. Remember, let them finish their sentence, because it can damage relationships in the workplace. And so we want to make sure we talk a lot about this, and we have a training that we put all of our staff through, and it's proactive. But the saying that I really pull out of that whole training is the hallmark of being professional is self-control. And we live in a world that is vastly losing their self-control a little bit. So just remember to center yourself. Remember, breathe it out. Remember your coping skills in the moment so that you can maintain that self-control to really just continue to be a professional.
I like that. I think I'm mostly like the face.
Mhm.
I think I can remain calm like in a
Yeah.
intense situation. And I kind of like, my reaction is to sort of like assess the situation, like what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, okay, what's the best thing to do here? First of all, I kind of like say, okay, as long as I kind of like assess the danger, make sure I have like a way to defend myself or to escape the situation or something. And then I want to say like, okay, like, well, how can I like get the best result of the situation?
Yeah.
So I think that's what I am.
Yeah. It's hard, and self-assessment is hard, but I would say that as you get older, the one skill that you should always work on is just assessing yourself in every situation. The more you know about yourself, the more about you know about how you react and how to kind of cut that off. Believe me, it'll serve you well when you start interacting with different types of people, different types of situations. Because you can really kind of be like, all right, I know I get a little bit jumpy when somebody cuts me off in traffic, so I'm going to start the breathing right away. That is a classic example. Approaching with curiosity too. So TMHA here, we have collaborative guidelines of communication. And one of the ones that I really hold true is when I start to get a little bit irritated or angry is, let me approach this with curiosity, right? So that example of somebody cutting you off in the road, approaching it with curiosity is like, well, maybe they're trying to get to the hospital because somebody in their family is sick. Or maybe, they're about to have a baby and they're trying to get there for the birth of the baby. Maybe somebody is at home and hurt and they're trying to get there. Maybe they have to really go to the bathroom. They're like, I try to think of all these situations to really just kind of be like, there's a reason why they did this. They're not just a mean person. They're not a jerk. Like I'm, forecasting in my mind. They have a reason. They're trying to get home. They're trying to get to work. Maybe this is the last time they can be late before they get a write-up. And so they're rushing there to get there. I feel like that kind of takes the teeth out of the argument for me. And I'm like, okay, just kind of control yourself a little bit more. Yeah. Anything else on this slide that anybody else kind of wants to talk about? Any questions, anything like that?
I think that all these can apply to one person at
Yeah.
maybe at different times in their life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Depending on how old they are, maybe how experienced they are.
Different situations for
Yeah.
different things, right? I use the mama bear kind of technique, right? So like I've seen people in cases where they are very much a flight or a freeze person, but I had a friend who was very much a flight or a freezer, but she was in public and her dog was being attacked by another person's dog, And then she went straight to fight. Like she was like ready to, she was yelling at the other person's owner. She jumped in there, she separated the dogs. And that was kind of shocking because I was like, whoa, that's a 180 from what you normally are. But the situation will kind of dictate how that is. Same thing with a kid, you know, I mean, I have a kid. And so when someone's coming at my kid, yes, that's a different response than you're going to get from me at work, you know, because it's personal. It's like, oh, no. But yeah. And then, you know, I think we exhibit all of these in certain times. This is just more about to know about like your like what you tend to lean to in an everyday situation. But it's good to know all of them. Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to the next one. Boom, I like that. And these should all be in the chat, like I said. Triggers. All right. Triggers are important because there are things that people do that set us off. When I was a waitress, one of the biggest triggers that was for me with customers that we were serving is when people were like exceptionally rude. I could take a little bit of rudeness, I could, because I understood that like, hey, maybe they're having a bad day, you know, maybe they're traveling, but like just obnoxious, obnoxious behavior that was just meant for a show or for other people that were at the table did not do well with that. And so I knew in my mind, hey, when that starts kind of coming up, you can get short and you could, you know, I could start to like just drop things on the table and leave. However, once again, that self-control is the hallmark of a professional, right? And so really just trying to hone in, maintain my professional boundaries, and then knowing that if it did get to a point where I felt like this is just, it's at a tipping level, then bringing in a manager or bringing in the lead server and being like, look, this is what's happening. I can't serve this table anymore. Can you take over? Or even just switching it up to a male server. Unfortunately, sometimes that would kind of, you know, so having an escape plan when triggers happen. And then sometimes you just have to deal with it, right? Because sometimes you have a trigger, but you have to face it head on because there's no other option. So that's what this sheet is. It's also in the chat. And this just really helps us kind of identify those triggers. So this sheet, the first part right there is the problem. So what is the worst case scenario that can happen if you are exposed to your triggers? This looks like a bunch of different things. You know what I mean? If I'm exposed to my triggers, I could get very angry and blow my top, or, you know, this could result in a panic attack for me. The second part there is just naming different things that are triggers. So there we have the emotional state. So anger for me for a while was a trigger. So then people would just get angry over nothing or what I would consider nothing. Then, you know, that would set me off. And then we have people. So I'm trying to think of a person that everybody knows that was a trigger for me. I would probably say Patrick Mahomes. I'm not a big fan. But that's a person, you know, but this may be a certain relative that you avoid at gatherings. This might be your boss. This might be somebody you work with. That's a trigger for you. It's important to know that. Places, so your body does keep the score. That is a book that is talks about how trauma and triggers and things like that, your body remembers places and things and smells, and it'll kind of take you back into those moments. So places, sometimes if something's happened and bad in a city or in a certain room or a certain house, like some people have really horrible memories of their childhood home, and so that's a trigger every time they drive by that childhood home. Or, you know, some people don't like Disneyland because they, you know, had a bad experience there. So that's just a place. And then we have things, thoughts, and activities. So yeah, is there a certain thing that kind of sets you off? Thoughts as well, or any activities or situations. Yeah, so you can make a list there. On the second page there, which is to the right, you have describe your biggest triggers in detail. So your top 3 triggers you're just describing. And then there, you're gonna describe a strategy for avoiding or reducing exposures to each trigger. And then you're going to, at the bottom, describe your strategy for dealing with each trigger head on. And this is really, you can just equate this to work, here at THMA, I think one of my triggers is that I am in a position that I will get yelled at every once in a while, just because people are trying to meet needs and they are having a bad day. And so sometimes I'm the person that gets to just help them kind of process that. But that's, sometimes that can set me off. So one of the strategies that I do to reduce exposure to each trigger, to that trigger, if someone's yelling at me or someone's yelling in general, and I don't have to be a part of that discussion, then I'll leave. I will leave. If someone's yelling in the parking lot and they're working with another team, I'll just go into the office and I will sit in my office, make sure I'm away from that. Dealing with it head on, that's a completely different thing. Usually if I'm on deck and I'm helping that person process it, then, I'm employing my self-control plan. I'm talking to myself, I'm letting myself know that I got this, I've been trained to do this. And that it will end eventually. I will be able to go home and enjoy my cats and my dogs and my kid. And these are just things that I have and repeat in my mind as I'm working through a situation that is triggering me if I can't leave it. Can anybody think of a work trigger that you have experienced? And it doesn't have to be where you currently work, but just in the past.
I can think of one.
Yeah.
There's one time where I was volunteering part-time, and there was this sort of Barbie dollhouse.
Yeah.
And a child was playing with it, and I was just kind of looking and didn't think it was too bad, but just monitoring. And the mom freaked out on me. Like, she's like, she was thinking that I was monitoring to make sure that it was really making sure that he wasn't going to break anything, partially, but not that much. And so she was just freaking out and saying she'd never come back. And I'm just standing there, just kind of shaking, going, what?
Yeah, yeah.
And luckily the boss was there. She complained to the boss of this, or I'm standing there right here. And the boss comes over and says, yeah, that's her. Like, and you didn't do anything wrong. You're just looking at the inventory, making sure if it wouldn't be to escalate or not, and that's her. And the child was fine, you're fine, and it's not. Yeah. So, but yeah, I've been there before.
Yeah.
And my reaction is you just go,
Yeah, I have to really applaud people in customer service, like, because the amount of, I feel like, just anger that they have to deal with from people that they're just trying to do their job. But yeah, man, that's unfortunate. So I guess, so that was the trigger, just knowing your triggers, just kind of letting her get it all out and then going through the proper channels was how you kind of
Yeah.
face that head on.
Yeah, she luckily, like, again, she complained to the boss who was right there, and like pointing at me and everything. And so when she left, she came over and like, all right, she trusted me, so that was really nice. And just
Yeah.
going, so what was your thought process? And I said,
Yeah.
Here's what I was thinking. Okay, so she was wrong, and that's and it's okay to be upset about that, and that's cool.
No.
So yeah, she was really cool. An older lady, so she had more experience, and it's this a volunteer shop, and so she had lots of experience with stuff like that. So.
Yes. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Anybody else have any experiences from work or from school or anything like that that was a trigger? Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of triggers out there, and I think it's just important to know what triggers you I always use this example in explaining like how triggers can really dictate your life is that I worked with somebody who was a sexual assault survivor. And one of the last things that they heard before they were assaulted was the sound of jeans rubbing together. And I think working with that individual, I had never ever considered how many times a day you hear something rubbing together that sounds like jeans. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so to see her strategically work through that and develop plans of like, she always had a pair of headphones on her so that if it got too much, she had a playlist that would help her kind of navigate those emotions and she would listen to it. If she could leave the area, she would. She had a vial of like essential oil, a mix that she really loved that made her feel happy. And so whenever she would feel in the thick of it and she was like, the music wasn't working, or sometimes it was applying both of those coping strategies of music and, smelling the aromatherapy. Sometimes, if all else failed and she didn't have her headphones or she didn't have her not smelling salts, but aromatherapy, she would rub her hands together, like really close to her ear, because she felt like if she was in control of the sound, she would gain control of the situation. And I was like, that's inventive. Yes, let's do that. Let's, but it is important. We can't, as much as our triggers, kind of will set us back, it is important that we learn how to navigate through them because we don't. For her, she just didn't want to live a life in isolation. She wanted to go back to work. She wanted to go back out in social circles. And so she really fought against that so that she could have a full and enriching life. And I don't know, that was just something that I really admired while working with her. I was like, man, you have gone through a lot and you're still persisting forward. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Self-talk matters. I really like self-talk. Self-talk is something that I employ. My therapist has given me a lot of great instruction and just talks around self-talk. And so in your chat, you'll see a list of cognitions, both negative and positive. When I kind of onboard staff, I have them go through the negative side and really mark ones that they feel are a big part of their life. So, I think on that sheet, there's one that says I'm worthless. For me personally, that was one that I would always tell myself growing up. And so my therapist really hit it on the head and she was like, look, that is a negative thought that has no place in your reality. So you need to identify it, to be like, that's a negative thought, and tell yourself sometimes out loud, that's a negative thought, and then replace it with something positive. So on the flip side, you'll see the positive cognitions there. And so I have my staff just kind of go through, circle some negative ones, and then for every negative cognition, they have to circle a positive one that they're going to use to replace it. For me, that one, I am worthless, was a big kind of one that was always in my mind. And so that centered around a lot of different situations. So one of the ones that I would combat it with was like, I am doing my best, and that is all I can do. I'm doing my best, that's all I can do. So when I would think that to myself, I'm worthless, immediately like that's a negative thought, that's no. And then I'd be like, I'm doing the best I can. Really are. You're doing the best you can. That's all you can do. And I would just repeat that to myself until the feelings or the thoughts kind of dissipated. I think it's really important because imposter syndrome is a real thing, and negative self-talk is something that I think is really rampant right now with things like social media, comparing yourselves to others, and so to have that ability of just to really call it out and be like, that's a negative thought and that has no place in my reality. And then, just feeding yourself some love in the sense of like, I'm lovable, I'm worthwhile, I am doing the best I can. That's all I can do. Having those little sayings that you can tell yourself what you think you will become. And that's been also kind of scientifically proven in the sense of like, if you think along the lines of something long enough, that will become a habit, right? So you attract that. So keep thinking positive of yourself. Anybody have anything to share about like self-talk and if it's played a role in your mental health, in your job, and encouraging you?
Well, actually, I can think of another workplace incident. When I was working part-time, I messed up on a task and my boss was extremely unhappy and she made it pretty clear.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm sitting there going, okay, just trying not to shake and going, okay. And then sitting there going, okay, tomorrow's different. And at any, and I get this out, an hour is different.
Mhm.
And I get home and that's different.
Mhm.
And I knew my boss, and so yeah, she was really upset. But I knew tomorrow she wasn't going to be upset.
Yeah.
It would be a lot less the next day. So just reminding myself, okay, how do I fix this in the future? And okay, that was done. What did I learn from it? And just kind of going through that mental process.
Yeah. I think that's a great example. Yeah. An hour is different from now. When I get home, it's different from now.
And sometimes what I've thought about, and I've done a few times, is okay, like I was sitting in the office when that happened, and I also going, okay, if this is too much and I want to change this, I can go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then that's a different setting,
Mhm.
and I can breathe a little bit, and then also a change of setting. Okay, boom, I go back into the office, boom, new start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you really hit on a wonderful thing, that change of scenery. It does kind of mix up your brain. So yeah, you've had a moment in the office where something happened and you're like, and you're frustrated or you're upset with yourself or somebody else is upset. Yeah, taking a walk to the bathroom and enjoying each and every step, using it, washing your hands with cold water, separating yourself from the situation. And then yes, that self-talk of like, now we're gonna reset, it's a new space, we're gonna go. That's a really great practice, Renee.
It's one of those things where I've thought about, because there's always this thing, well, when something screws up for you and it doesn't go the way you want, there's always this thing, well, tomorrow's another day. Well, you don't have to wait for that.
No.
Yeah. You can go to the bathroom, you can sit there, breathe a little bit, and just focus and go, okay, now, boom, right? That's a little bit harder if you're in that's one place, but it's, you don't have to wait that long.
No, you don't. You can just reset. And that's a real positive mindset to be like, yeah, no, I like that.
That's like a little bit of the taking control of the situation too, that we were talking about earlier.
Anybody else have anything to share about self-talk and how they use it in their life? Awesome. All right. Once again, self-control is the hallmark of being professional. We must respond instead of react. Fire drills happen before the fire, and self-control plans are here to help us in the moment. So, this was a shift in thinking for me, but really, we must respond instead of react. So, taking that moment and just breathing and responding to a situation instead of reacting. And kind of like, I think of reacting as like, I'm raising to meet the level of that customer who's yelling at me, or I yell something back in the moment, but taking that breath and then just being like, I hear you, you're upset, or I'm sorry that this happened, or, using some type of assertive communication. So an I statement, and then responding to the person. Because when somebody is, especially in human services, if you're looking to get into human services, if somebody is upset with you, if somebody is coming in hot, as we like to call it, there's a legitimate need. They have a legitimate need. It's just they are wrapped up in their emotions. And who hasn't been in their life wrapped up in their emotions, especially around things like housing, food, basic necessities that everybody should have access to. And so just to understand that, hey man, this is a legitimate need that this person is probably trying to communicate, and taking a moment and breathing and being like, okay, what can I try? How can I try to help you? In customer service, I that empathy lens, of like, there is a really great video out there, and it's like the empathy glasses. And so somebody puts on a pair of glasses and they're able to see like what's going on in everybody's life, right? So he puts on the glasses, and there's a guy that's kind of being rude to the cashier at a coffee shop, but he puts on the glasses and he realizes they lost their father, recently. Putting on the glasses and realizing that someone's, struggling with how to put food on the table for their kids, or about to lose their housing. These are all situations that everybody is facing. We all have our own issues. And so to approach with that curiosity is such an important thing. I'm not saying don't hold any boundaries, right? At the same time, boundaries are self-care as well. So really establishing boundaries that you feel comfortable with, and asking yourself, like, if you are in one of those jobs, where's my boundary of what I'm able to kind of absorb? And then if I'm no longer able to absorb that and the boundary has been crossed, what is my plan to end the conversation or bring somebody in that can take over, and then take care of myself? Those are legitimate questions to ask yourself in your workplaces, as they vary, right? If you are at a point where you're like, I don't think I could take another person yelling at me today, but you're on the front end cashier, is there a way for somebody to kind of switch with you and you go stock a shelf for about 30 to 45 minutes and then kind of get your feet back under you? There's no shame in asking, right? Sometimes the answer will be no, but if you can give yourself a little bit of space and really kind of build up that resiliency, I think it's important.
Sometimes I have the tendency my mind will wander sometimes, and I'll just like play out scenarios. But it's kind of been beneficial to me because I'll like play out scenarios in which I do something that's like not good, and then I'll see how it ends. Like I'll see the consequences of that action, and then I'll say like, whoa, okay, like that's not a good way to go about it.
Yeah.
But like allowing my mind to like follow through in like a bad scenario, it kind of like helps me plan to react in a good way to that kind of situation.
Yeah.
I do something similar to that. So there's a stressful situation, and so I was thinking about so the different likely scenarios, and imagining myself and going through the process of those scenarios of what I would need to do to have the outcome I wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you're doing is you're preparing, right?
Yeah.
And you're just walking it through. Once again, fire drills happen before the fire, right? You're kind of walking yourself through your own fire drill of like, if the situation like this happens again, if a situation like this happens for the first time, how will I respond? If you have those like maps or pathways already kind of mapped out, then you might, you're more likely to follow those pathways when the situation arises. And so I think that's a great exercise. Is actually, when we talk about self-assessment, that's actually a skill that we kind of encourage people to do, is think about it, right? Think about putting yourself in those situations and how will you respond, because that helps your brain. It's muscle memory, right? When you want to learn a sport or you want to learn how to shoot a basketball, you go out there and you shoot the basketball 100 times, right? And you learn how you form your arm and you learn how you snap your wrist, so that when in the game, you're not thinking about, my arm has to be perfectly 90 degrees and my arm will go up like this and my wrist will curve like this. It becomes second nature to you, so that you just, boom, you hit it. It's the same thing. That's what you guys are doing. You're just prepping yourself, which is a good exercise.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Ooh, well, the last sheet that we have there, I don't know if we have it. Maybe Albert can bring it up and share it on the screen. It's a self-control plan.
Okay.
Let's see. So we talked a lot about self-control, but what does that actually mean? Well, we tend to need, what is that? What does self-control mean? It just means controlling yourself, but in a systematic way.
You're not sharing that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I can share.
Yeah, yeah.
So the sheet, let me see, let me find it in the chat so we know exactly.
Yeah, it's, oh, there it is, there it is.
Boom. All right, awesome. Thank you, Albert. All right, so a self-control plan for us, we kind of break it down. We do the PROACT style, or it has 3 components. One of them is breathing, one of them is self-talk, and the other is grounding. All right, so with these 3 components, I'm going to prepare myself and then kind of hold space to ground myself, center myself to respond to a situation. So breathing can be anything, either 3 deep breaths, you can do 2 cycles of box breathing. I highly recommend you just doing a YouTube dive on different breathing techniques because there's a lot out there and they have different exercises for different types of things that you want to conquer or take on. So I recommend doing a deep dive because it'll be one of those things where you're like, wow, 2 hours have passed and I've just been looking at breathing videos. So we will do that. Yes. So some type of breathing, some type of self-talk, and it should be short and something that you can repeat to yourself in the moment, right? So breathing too, in the moment. So in times of troubles, I will usually tell myself, like, you got this, you've been trained for this, you're safe. I will tell myself, oftentimes I'll just remind myself on repeat in the back of my mind. Another part of it is grounding. And so you can do this a bunch of different ways. Some people kind of just physically feel their feet on the floor to know that they're connected to the earth. Some people use pressure points. There's a pressure point in the middle of your hand that doesn't hurt as bad as this one right here. But holding that for 5 seconds, taking a deep breath, and then letting it go, just kind of really centers me because I've been doing that for a while. But there is that. Also tugging your ear. That's another way people ground. Finding a grounding technique that you can do that is in the moment and that you can do quickly is important. So with those 3 things, you're going to identify a breathing technique, a self-talk routine, and a grounding for you to just instantaneously regain control. There's a really great YouTube video and it's called 1 Minute Meditation. And so for those of you that have never started a meditation practice, I think this is a great beginning video to learn just how to sit with yourself. And it really explains that, when you're beginning meditation, thoughts will come and you'll want to just stare at that thought or dismantle that thought, but you just let that pass by like traffic and then recenter and bring it back to your breath of just I'm just breathing in and out and just kind of being numb. Once again, meditation just has so many benefits that we can really talk about. And there's a lot of different meditation practices to hit a lot of different things. So for depression, if you do another YouTube dive, you can find meditations, guided meditations to help combat depression or anxiety, meditations to help stretch different parts of your brain so that you can function better. Meditation is amazing. If you have never delved into it, I definitely recommend just giving it a try. It's nice to be able to sit with yourself for at least 5 to 10 minutes and then just breathe. It really is a very, very wonderful practice. So there is that. So develop a self-control plan for yourself with breathing, self-talk, and grounding. And then methods to restore balance and prevent out from work, right? Man, how many have been burnt out on work before? Raise your hand. I have, yes. It has been a moment where you're just I don't care about anything. I don't care about what. I just want to sleep and doom scroll on social media. So that happens. And so we need to figure out ways to prevent that or just bring restoration and balance into your life. Here we have strategies for when I am alone and can leave the situation at work. Here, when we talk about this at THMA, there are a lot of cool different strategies that people have. We have one where they work, the staff bathroom is the furthest away you can possibly get from the main floor. And so they will walk through the doors and it's behind 2 locked doors. And so they'll walk all the way to the staff bathroom, just breathing, kind of recentering themselves. They'll go into the bathroom and use cold water to wash their hands because it kind of shocks their system. Another person keeps frozen lemons in their freezer. And when they are in that hyper arousal and they have a moment to separate themselves, they will go and they'll squeeze the frozen lemons. And they really like that. I have another person that shared that what they will do is they will take ice and they will hold ice in their hands to kind of help them regulate. I have another person who holds ice in their mouth and just to feel that coldness. I have people who like go walk around the block and do a cat hunt where they like are just looking for cats and they'll take pictures of all the cats that they see in the neighborhood and then they'll put together a slideshow for their fellow staff members who couldn't leave. And everybody gets to see a cute cat or a dog. So there's a lot of different coping skills out there, but just finding some that work for you that you can do when you can leave the situation. And then strategies when you're with your team or in with the client or with the customer and you can't leave it. So for me, I tend to stretch a lot if I'm super stressed and I'm with somebody that I can't leave and they're activating me and I'm trying to ground myself and maintain my self-control, I will stretch. Like I'll just be like, I'm gonna, cause tension in my back and hold it out, or I'm just gonna go like this and talk to you and hold my arm. Just natural movements where I'm just like, yeah, no, I have a crick in my back. And so we're stretching. That release of tension in my body really helps me to maintain self-control. But yeah, does anybody have any strategies when you're dealing with somebody difficult or a difficult situation that you do in the moment to kind of help you maintain your balance? Stephanie, come on, I know you got one.
We can't hear you.
Well,
You're mute.
I have a what, a strategy?
A strategy to like when you're in the moment and you're working with somebody difficult
Oh,
and then you're like, I need just to calm myself down. What do you do?
yeah. I hate to say it, I usually run for help right away. You know, I go find you or Barry.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we go. This person's, triggering me. I don't feel safe,
Yeah.
and can you give me some tips or whatever? And then a lot of times we'll look in Smart Care or Apricot and we'll find out that this person has a history of doing that,
Mhm.
which, so then that helps you not take it personally. You realize that it's not you,
Yeah.
and you feel like, okay, from the people who've dealt with that person before, you can use the strategies that they've done with them before and just, do that. Yeah. I tend to run for help a little earlier than probably necessary, but it's safer that way. It makes me feel safe.
Resolution. It is. It is. And what that does touch on another thing is finding veteran staff, right? No matter where you work or what type of job you have, finding veteran staff that have been there and have done it and asking them like, hey, in this type of situation, what do you do? What would you do? Their application or their method may not be exactly fit to you, but you can take things out of what they've done and learn from it and then apply it to your own response to help you grow. Watching somebody handle a difficult situation, I think is really educational, especially if they do it successfully. Um, watching somebody de-escalate somebody, watching somebody kind of just walk through that, you can like, okay, so they did this, and so maybe I do this next time, or this didn't land well with that person, so always be aware that maybe this won't land well. But watching somebody or getting help, there's no shame in that. Because yeah, leaning on a veteran staff, somebody that's been there before, you can learn a lot of wisdom. Yeah. All right. And then the last part of the self-control plan is self-care. Self-care is really important. And we're not talking self-care like social media likes to show it, where you're buying clothes or you're flying off to Fiji or you're getting that Starbucks. I mean, that can be components of it. I don't want to, poo-poo all of that, but really understanding that self-care are long-term habitual habits that restore balance. And so maybe that for you is like, I go for a hike every Saturday. I have a staff that goes for a bike ride every weekend. It's a long bike ride. It's like hours, but that's their self-care. That sets them up for a week of success. I have another friend that has like a Sunday evening routine where it's self-care in the sense of like, I'm going to do my skincare. I'm going to, wash my hair. I'm going to do, self-care in the sense of like my nails and my toenails. I'm going to cut them. I'm going to do all of that stuff to really kind of set them up in a space of like, we're going to roll into Monday completely 100%, and we're going to take it from there. Going to the beach and watching the waves crash against the rocks and just being one with nature. There's so many different ways that you can have long-term habits to really help you just maintain that balance in your life and build that restoration. What we want to do is we want to build resilience. We want to put it in the bank for ourselves so that when we have to make a withdrawal, we can make a full withdrawal and not have to shorten it because we don't have anything left in the tank. Does anybody have any long-term habits that really helps them just kind of center themselves and restore that balance?
When I'm at home, I have to have certain sounds on because it protects me from hearing the sounds from outside that bother me.
Mm-hmm.
So I have like a noise machine. It's not like a recording of a sound,
Mm.
but it's like one of the ones that has like a physical fan that
Oh,
makes a
yeah.
whirring sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty effective.
Nice.
And I also, that's not enough all the time. So I have like music playing on YouTube that I kind of leave on most of the time, unless I'm actually watching something else.
Yeah.
But I have to have like the sound, the white noise fan sound, and then like it's just like a endless playlist of like synthwave music that plays, and that kind of like fixes the sound in my head. So
That's cool. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think you hit on a couple different things, but sleep, a regular sleep routine and finding ways to help you achieve that is so important to your self-care. Sleep messes up a lot for a lot of people. So finding ways to get that quality sleep, Albert, yeah, perfect. Anybody else have any self-care practices that are long-term? For me personally, I like finding things that have results. I work in a field that doesn't have results a lot of times. And so like I like finishing things. I like concrete results. And so I'm a cleaner. When I'm stressed, I will go home and clean. Much to the annoyance of my family. But I'll turn over things, I'll clean because for me, I cannot settle in a space that isn't organized and clean. So like I definitely keep that. And then I play a lot of games because like, yeah, play around of dominoes on my phone, or I'll play a game of solitaire, a level of Zelda, because I feel like I've accomplished something, right? I've met all the goals of that level of the game. And I feel like I'm crossing off something from my checklist.
Can be effective.
Yeah. All right, so these are all the chat for you, so you can download them as you want to use them. And then, yeah, I think this is something that we do with our staff, and I've had staff who have left and gone on to bigger and better things reach out to me and be like, can I have that paperwork again? Because I want to do it for my new job to set myself up. So these are things that you can revisit every once in a while because triggers change, self-care changes, your self-control plan might need to change depending on where you are. So yeah.
You got a few more sections here. Thank you, Trista, for all that.
Yeah.
Very cool. This next section is about working as a peer in the mental health field while trying to connect people with other people, because you can't just, they can't be your only relationship when you're working with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As a peer mental health worker, we can be someone's first positive human relationship on their recovery journey, but we can't be the only relationships they have. We must connect them with their own independent social support system. And this is some stuff that I would like learn in the training that I'm taking for the peer support specialist that we talked about, referenced earlier in the presentation. Studies show that people with a good support system of friends and family go further in their mental health recovery. Self-help groups can be a source of new positive relationships as well as a source of mental health recovery and personal growth. Anyone have any experiences of trying to connect people with other people while at work, you know, trying to like help them expand their own network? Because like a lot of people can isolate. I know that's happened to me before, you know, in my journey. That tendency to isolate, and a lot of people going through mental health recovery do have that tendency, and it can be a trap. It can be
Yeah.
devastating.
I think it's just finding community, right? Like your work can't be your whole entire community, but like exploring that, here in our county, we have various different groups that you can join. So like if you are part of the LGBTQ plus community, looking into Gala or, Trans Central Coast and being a part of those committees of people that share your value sets or your beliefs, I think there is AA, if you struggle with any type of substance use, those are strong knitted communities in our bigger slow community that I think of. Like I have a friend that is an AA, and the amount of connection that that person has, like we'll just be somewhere and someone will come up to them and be like, hey, how's it going, and they're always going to a birthday or an event or a barbecue or it's a highly active social circle, and that really feeds them because they're like, yes, I need that, right? I need to keep busy in order for me to stay away from other things. But yeah, I think finding those things. We have wellness centers. We have 3 wellness centers in our, they're run by TMHA. We have 3 wellness centers though. We have one in Atascadero, we have one in SLO, and then one in AG. But getting connected to those as well, I think is really great, because you find other people. Also, there's like a lot of cool stuff that goes on in our community. Like one of my staff just went to this like thing in Los Osos where it was at this store called Wild as Heck, and they like celebrated Halloween, and there was like cheap tattoos that you could get, and there was like a pottery class, like, and I think it's hard, especially when you are alone, to go to those new things, but to have that bravery and join those new groups. I think you meet people that you're like, I really vibe with this, yeah, I don't know what other things are out there. I mean, Renee, you're always finding events and groups and things like that.
Well, I found this area has a lot of stuff. You just need to find it. And that's the tricky part. There are a lot of advertisements and stuff on like Instagram and Facebook. There are some interesting deals of different products as well. It's figuring out where to start. So I'd start with the libraries really. And then it's at least with Instagram, you click on that and then there's a bunch of suggestions and that will show stuff.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool. I also think of like the adult school. So like, I mean, there's a lot of really cool classes there. That's not math because I'm not a math fan, but like there's like a painting rocks class. There's a sewing class for beginners, so you can learn how to start making your own stuff by sewing. There's so like a lot of cool community groups that you could just go and join, right? Take a class from a community college. Cuesta, we are fortunate to have a pretty expansive community college in our area. Take a class. There's more than just math. Nothing's wrong with math. If you enjoy math, take a math class. Do it, right? If you love trigonometry, man, get your jam on. I'm not going to judge you, but getting out, I think, is important because we spend so much time at work, right? We spend 8 hours pretty much every day, Monday through Friday. That if you don't have something outside of work, it can get pretty grim very quickly. So expand your social networks, find those things that you can connect with, find those community events, and expand your social circle. I think the better the more that you expand your social circle and you don't have to have like a million friends, but if you find yourself with 2 or 3 really good people in your life, you're in a good place, and find those 2 or 3 roots in your life, and have beach dates and coffee dates and go out into nature and all those fun things. I think that really contributes to your mental wellness at work if you're able to kind of unplug from work and enjoy your time outside of it.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta be adventurous and brave and
Yeah.
just face, the fear of things not going the way you expect it to, and just get out there and take a leap.
Yeah. Flexibility, I think, is a huge thing, right? Like, and leaning into that. Yeah, my things don't go my way. That's okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you believe in, whether that be the universe, God, a giant Cthulhu, like whatever you believe in, like just trust that it's just stretching you, is molding you into something different. And that's okay. We all need to grow. And just have that courage to step out and try something new. Has anybody ever tried something new and it didn't go according to your plan, but it was still a good experience?
Plenty of times, I can't remember anything right off the top of my head that I can name, but yeah, that's life. Really.
Yeah, it really is. I think one that I ended was really nervous about was voice lessons. I took voice lessons in my 20s. And I didn't know my vocal teacher. She was like my age, and I'm socially awkward. But like I remember just being like, I don't want to go inside this building. I don't want to do this. Like, what if I just cancel? What if I say I don't want to do this? But then like going and then doing the first lesson and then being like, okay, that was okay. All right, that wasn't too bad. And then going and doing the second lesson. And now I'm still friends with that vocal coach who lives in Pennsylvania now. But just, encourage yourself to take those small steps, because you never know what's going to form or what type of relationship's going to come from that. And I have some really good memories from my vocal coach, and like singing at her house super late into the night. And I found a lot of great artists that I probably would have never explored if it hadn't been for her influence on my life. So I think, definitely challenge yourself to new things. Has anybody been thinking about trying something new that you're like, I don't know if I want to do it? No?
I've been thinking of just trying to get over my fear of like new social frontiers,
Yeah.
and just becoming like an explorer of socialization.
I get that. Yeah. Just pushing yourself, just little increment steps at a time.
Yeah. Right. How do you all stay mentally healthy at work besides what we talked about? Here's just a few suggestions and ideas I had. Things that help me, and someone mentioned to me community and like mindfulness. I have like my own definitions for it, and it has to do with just being aware of what I'm thinking about and making sure it stays positive.
Yeah, mindfulness can be being present in the moment in a positive way.
Yeah.
Any other words you think should be up here?
Well, that's a pretty good list.
I think knowing the resources at your work, right? So a lot of different agencies or employment things have what we call employee assistance plans. And so like exploring if your place of employment has that, if there is that. I think therapy should be up there. I think everyone can benefit from therapy. I think, and then just knowing like, hey, if you're a full-time staff, like, do you have health insurance benefits? If so, what does that cover? Does that cover therapy? If it does, maybe I can find a therapist. With the invention of telehealth and all that, you can definitely now find a therapist even without insurance through like a third party vendor. But I think therapy is a good way to stay healthy at work, especially if you don't want to take your work home and talk about situations with your family or roommates or anything like that. But having a place where you can just vent all of that out, and then having somebody who is trained to reflectively listen and be like, and help you kind of navigate those paths is really beneficial. Yeah.
I think even like Amazon has their own medical service now.
Yeah, it is intense. But I am still of the opinion that like sitting in a room with somebody like a therapist is kind of my preferred method, to be in the same room.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people too.
Yeah, I'm kind of zoomed out a little
Yeah.
bit. Like I'm a little bit zoomed out, but I'm older, so maybe that's just me being cranky. But I have family members that do telehealth because that's just what works for them. You know what I mean? They can take that hour break in the middle of their day and do it where they are right away, and then go right back to whatever they're doing. And so you got to find what works best for you. But the important thing is just, if you need therapy, if you need someone to kind of help you process those things, man, connect. And definitely you can reach out to THMA to kind of help you find therapists in the area that accept your insurance. Because I think therapy is beneficial for a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right.
Find your mind at work.
I think that's be kind to your mind, if you feel overwhelmed, take a vacation. You know what I mean? There's scientific study that people benefit from the thought of looking forward to a vacation. So if you have something planned out, it doesn't have to be, who wouldn't love to go to like Hawaii or Ibiza? But man, we don't have that type of money. I don't have that type of money. But occasionally I will take a 4-day weekend. I'll take a Friday and a Monday off, and I'll just go out in nature in Los Osos, or I will sit at home and play video games all weekend, or I'll go to San Francisco and just walk the streets. But it's just having something to look forward to outside of work is so important. And so like just making those plans, I think, is great. That's also a way to be kind to your mind, give it to something to look forward to, that's outside of that. All right. Yay! I like her little outfit.
So we're coming up at the closing time almost. I've got a few slides about upcoming events. Renee,
We
do
do
you
have
wanna-
another, we have a slow tenants unit on top of that. So, we'll have 4 organizations. I've been working a lot on this. So, finally get to roll out advertising and trying to get everybody to know about the meeting. So it's a meeting dedicated to housing and the process of trying to obtain housing and also advocacy, and
Yeah, it's exciting. I feel we have some great partners and people, Self Help Housing and Haslo. Renee has been working really hard on this meeting. So it's great to see it come to fruition. But yeah, just come if you have any questions. They're going to explain their programs and kind of what to look forward to. I know that the housing where the Maxine shelter used to be is coming up right pretty soon. Like they're finishing up that. So maybe they'll have some tidbits on how to apply for that and get on those wait lists.
They're building so much housing in town, but
It is needed, man. It is needed, and we still need more. I think we should take a page out of Japan's book and really just build like a huge, like one of those like studios.
Oh,
That's
fine,
all,
yeah.
yeah, and just like have that be kind of like a transitional housing.
yeah.
Just get people off the streets on their feet, and then they can look for like a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, but something to get off the streets, man. Like it's hard, especially in the winter months. It's really, really hard.
I think the biggest problem with the prevents that is that people have the attitude of like not in my backyard, and they
Yeah.
keep
I think that's what
sabotaging those projects.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
YIMBY is yes in my
Mhm.
backyard, whereas
Oh, yeah.
NIMBYs are not in my backyard.
Yeah. So we're excited to have them. Be a good meeting.
We have the coming TMHA feast.
Oh yeah, if you're interested in going, let us know. We can definitely put an RSVP for you. It's usually a really good time, getting together with a bunch of people. I know there's no Thanksgiving songs to sing, but
So, I would need a ride to get there, so how would I do that?
ooh, there's a couple people that are going there, so you probably put a feeler out. I would do it now. I'd be like,
Okay,
yeah,
definitely.
ask people like who's going, and then if anybody can give you a ride there or back, yeah.
If it's the work day and we're working that day, I can be here and then somebody can take me up to Atascadero and back.
It's a work day, Wednesday, November 19th. So
So yeah, I can come in here and then that might make it a little bit easier.
yeah. Oh,
Wasn't there like a Thanksgiving song on one of the Charlie Brown
I think so.
cartoons?
Maybe.
There is, I think, a Thanksgiving for Charlie Brown. Yeah.
Is there? There is a Thanksgiving episode. I know that. I don't know about a song. I don't even heard of the song. Thanksgiving carols. We'll have to create one.
Yeah.
No, we're okay. We don't need a Thanksgiving carol.
We're dedicated to eating.
Yeah, and cranberry sauce. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. If
Oh,
you have,
wait, I have another one.
yeah.
We'll have Gary from Center for Successful Aging from Santa Barbara to discuss seniors and mental health.
Ooh.
That will be scheduled for November 11th.
Yes, yeah, and that is a huge population, I think, here in SLO, is we're seeing a lot of aging mental health concerns, so I think that's timely, yeah.
Mhm.
And Gary's always fun.
Yes,
I enjoy Gary. He also has like some really good tips on like how to expand your neuroplasticity as you age, usually in his presentations, which is really helpful for us that are getting over the hill. If you're younger, you don't have to worry about that right now, but
It's never too early.
yeah, right. It's like skincare. It's always never too early to start. Yeah. All right. Thank you all for joining. Bye, Stephanie.
See you
Bye.
soon. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye, Renee. Bye, Pat. Bye, Soyaka.